Greetings in the name of the Lord. My dearest friends, I welcome you to our reflection today, 16th Sunday in ordinary time of the year. And our reflection will be based on the gospel reading of today, especially the first parable, the parable of the wheat and the wheat, in Matthew chapter 13, verse 24 to 30, and then verse 37 to 42. In this parable, Jesus speaks to us as either being the good wheat planted by God or the weed planted by the evil one. But I would like us to follow these points in our reflection. 1. None of us is created to be bad. It is very clear in the parable. It says, a man planted good wheat in his field. Originally, only the good wheat were planted by this man. God made each and every one of us in his goodness for us to be good. The creation narrative of first chapter of Genesis says that at each point in creation, God will look at what he has created and he sees everything to be good. At the conclusion of that creation narrative in verse 31, it says, God looked at everything he has created, and behold, each and every one of them is good. We are made to be good. None of us is originally made to be evil or to be sinful. And the Bible says we are the image of God. God made us in his image and likeness. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. So originally we are the image of the goodness of God, made to be the good wheat. And that brings us to the second point. It means that whatever bad attitude we have in us is nothing but a later development brought about by the enemy of the good wheat. Satan plants weed in us and among us in order to suffocate the good wheat God has planted. Because Satan cannot destroy entirely the good wheat, what did he do? He planted weed that will surround this wheat. And even sometimes, the weed will grow to the extent that the good wheat will not be seen. So what we see is just this bad attitude in us. But inside us lies still the goodness of God. I don't know if you have seen a maize farm. A stick of maize may be surrounded by many weeds. That is what Satan does in us. For every virtue in us, Satan brings hundreds of vices with the attempt to suffocate this particular virtue. And when does this happen? The parable says, when every man was asleep. That is the only time the evil one operates in us, when we are asleep. The image of sleeping represents dullness, inactiveness, inattentiveness in the spiritual world. When we are spiritually lazy, when we are spiritually weak, when we are spiritually off, when our spiritual life begins to go down, when we begin to neglect the growth of our spiritual life, that is when the evil one comes to plant this weed that tends to suffocate the wheat in us. And that's why Jesus said to his disciples, watch and pray. Keep watch and pray. Do not sleep, that you may not enter into temptation. Matthew 26 verse 41. When we stop watching spiritually, the evil one plants this seed that grows in us. But does that make God to destroy us? No. God is ever patient with us. He allows us because He is hopeful that one day we will weed off these weeds in us and allow the wheat, recognize this wheat, the goodness God has made us to be. In the parable, when the servants wanted to destroy the weed, the man says, no, do not destroy the weed, because in the attempt to destroy the weed, you may also destroy the wheat. God looks at us from the point of view of the goodness He has made in us, the goodness He has made us to be, and He wants us to be that good. No one is ever made to be evil. We must stop the attitude of tagging people to be totally destroyed, to be totally marked off. When we see someone going astray, we must be so kind to recognize that this man is the product of God's goodness, that this person is the product of God's wonderful work. How often do you criticize people, tag them with particular names? Have you recognized the weed growing in yourself? Have you noticed that there is something off from what you have been made to be? Have you recognized when this weed started growing in yourself? Have you decided to pull off, to weed off whatever that militates against the goodness of God in you? The first reading of today also brings to our attention this lenience of God to us and charges us to be lenient to others. No one is made to be evil, and we must always see ourselves as God.